Hello, all. This is Ann Y, and you are listening or watching to the Bible reading series. If you have not watched the first episode, at least do so for the disclaimer. For the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, 9 through 13, King James Version. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Like I said, Genesis 29, King James Version. Jacob meets Rachel. Then Jacob went on his journey, and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in his place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, Rachel, his daughter, cometh with sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth, then we water the sheep. And while he yet spake with him, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. Laban's treachery. And Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for an handmaiden. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, It must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and he will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. Laban gave Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaiden, to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction, now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, Because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, and he hath therefore given me this son also. She called his name Simon. And she conceived again, bare a son, and said, Now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name called Levi. And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she said, Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Yehuda, and left bearing. That is the end of the reading. Small overview here. Jacob has left his family, traveled across a large plain called Pan Aram, and on his journey he had a vision, and he was frightened by the whole thing. It was a dream, but he notes that the area that he was in was a holy place. And so from there, he makes a vow, and he finds himself here in this field where there are 3 flocks of sheep, a great stone that holds up a well, and they are, I'm not sure if lazy would be the right word, but they're not doing exactly what they should be doing according to Jacob. Well, he asks them a question about Laban, and they say, yes, we know him. He's doing well. And now we see Rachel. I mean, double check on the pronunciation here. I'm not always perfect, but yeah, Rachel. And she's coming down to water the sheep because she's a shepherd. She does work. This is I don't know. I guess important our time frame that this is seen and noticed. And she comes down, and in this moment, Jacob is delighted, but he also removes the stone from the well's mouth to feed the flocks, and then stops it back up, or I don't know if he stops it back up, but he then kisses Rachel, lifts up his voice, and weeps. And Rachel runs to tell her father the good news that Jacob is here, the son of his brother's or his sister's husband. So brother-in-law. So he goes out to meet him. There's an interaction between them, and then he makes a deal to stay for a month, and then that turns into 7 years for one of his daughter's hands in marriage because he loves her, Rachel. But he's slighted and is given Leah, and he says, "What is this this beguilement here, being deceptive?" And so he works another 7 years for the one that he loves hand. An interesting turn of events considering the fact that he lied about who he was to his father. So just an interesting turn of events there. But we'll get to that in a second. Both of them receive a handmaid, and then the Lord identifies that Leah was hated in the household. So we can read a little bit into that, I guess, maybe because of the law of the time. Jacob was thinking about divorcing Leah, and then God causes this to happen. This is a possibility. There's other ones, but we'll just play with that one for right now. And so she bears these sons here at the very end. One, let me double check, is Reuben. Behold a son is what it means. Reuben. And then there is Simon. Double check on it. Yep. Shimon. And then Levi, or pretty close. Levi. And then finally, Yehuda, which is a primary name. We'll come to see, but so is Levi. Can't remember that one for Rehubain is also another one. I guess yeah. Shimon is one as well. So these four are pretty primary children, but we see that Leah is not barren and Rachel is. So from that overview, we'll get into the commentary. A good bit of this here is just annotating grammatical things, if I can understand it correctly. So, but it starts out with, now Jacob lifted his feet. That's not how it's phrased here. And the Masoretic, from my understanding, it just says Jacob went on his journey. But this phrase here, lifted his feet, is in reference to Proverbs and phrasing in which the stomach or the seat of the heart is what lifts the feet. A good way to think of this is like if you feel excited, you're energetic would be a better way to interpret that. But as soon as he was given the good tidings that he was assured protection, his heart lifted his feet. He became fleet-footed. So it is explained in the Rabbah 78. So, like I said, and we know the seat of emotion is the heart instead of the bowels, which it was in the Old Testament. So that's why I was saying the stomach lifts the feet, but here it's saying the heart lifts the feet. So Jacob is excited. He looked, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it, because from that well they would water the flocks, and a huge rock was upon the mouth of the well. They would water the flocks. The shepherds would water the flocks. This verse is elliptical. Would gather there. And all the flocks would gather there, and they would roll the rock off the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and then they would return the rock onto the mouth of the well to its place. Would gather. They were accustomed to gather because the rock was huge, needed multiple people, and they would roll. So this is a tense thing. So we speak in a way that it's like they would roll, but that also means that it would come to be as well. So, and then they would return. Similarly, the phrasing there. Some of the writing speaks of this in a almost like a judgment seat. There's a good portion of the Rabbah was about how there are 3 locations because of the flocks, and the rock is the foundation of the thing, and it would very, very, very interesting allegories there about how this whole thing is kind of symbolic of how the court of heaven works, I guess, in at least my minimal understanding there. And he said to them, moving forward, and he said to them, are things going well with him? Speaking of Laban, so this is Jacob asking about him, and things are going well, and behold, his daughter Rachel is coming with sheep. Oh, so yeah, he said that to them, and then they said, yes, things are going well, behold, Rachel is coming with sheep. Notice the fact that he's being courteous. He is asking about the people of the land. How are they doing? It's coming with sheep. So this is also another tense grammatical thing. And he said, the day is yet long. It is not the time to take in the livestock, water the sheep, and go pasture. So they're apparently laying about, I think, is kind of the concept. The day is yet long since he saw them laying. They thought that they wished to gather the livestock to return home, and that they would no longer graze. So he said to them, the day is yet long. If you have been hired for the day, you have not completed the day's work. And if the animals are yours, it is nevertheless not the time to take in the livestock. There's some implication of the individuals here are not being, they're not honoring their duties. However, there's also another piece that they may have been waiting for Rachel to come with the sheep as well, so she didn't miss out. So that's something that I was kind of looking at going, maybe because the stone is so large and they don't want to do it multiple times, so there's that. However, it presents a moment for Jacob as it comes closer. And they said, we cannot do that until all the flocks are gathered together. Notice what I was saying, and they will roll the rock off the mouth of the well, and we shall then water the sheep. We cannot water them because the stone is huge. That is one, I guess, way of looking at that. And they will roll. This is translated, and they will roll because it is the future tense. So what they're saying, or what it's saying here, is that somehow it's implicated that this rock is so massive that they physically can't move it, which is not how I was reading this before. It was the fact that they would come there to water their sheep, so it's something that would commonly happen, and they were waiting, so we cannot do that until all the flocks are gathered together. And maybe that implies that they need multiple people to move this stone. That's a fair estimate, and I can definitely see that. But almost, maybe I'm reading into it that because the stone is too big, they just physically can't roll this. Seems a little far-fetched for me, but there are multiple ways, I guess, you could look at that. And then, so Rachel comes down, and it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob drew near and rolled the rock off the mouth of the well, and he watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. That Jacob drew near and rolled, as one who removes the stopper from a bottle to let you know that he possessed great strength. Now, this is whether or not they were incapable of moving this or not, or they were just waiting for Rachel to come down to water. He does this, so it is a great feat either way, in my opinion. So I can still agree with this, especially if he's coming to a well that feeds flocks of sheep, and it's stopped up with this stone, and he does it himself as like a stopper for a bottle. So he just like, I guess you could take that to the extreme where he just like takes it with one hand and moves it with one hand. But either way, we see an incredible feat from Jacob in front of Rachel, which it's almost like in my head I'm seeing this scene like, Jacob he's macho manning over to the stone. He's like, I'm going to show her what I'm capable of, and pulls the stone out, and then he proceeds to kiss Rachel. And he raised his voice and wept. Before I get into the wet part, this Jacob kissed Rachel is in the Rabbah. It says that there are only 3 reasons to kiss somebody outside of promiscuity. One is parting, one is kinship, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. It's actually the first one that it brings up. But here, I think it's a symbol of excitement. I like he's so excited that he doesn't know what to do, and then it results in his voice being raised up, and then he weeps. So Anne wept, since he foresaw with the Holy Spirit that she, Rachel, would not enter the grave with him. Another explanation, since he came empty-handed, and he said, Eliezer, my grandfather's servant, had nose rings and bracelets and sweet fruits in his possession, and I am coming with nothing in my hands. He had nothing because Eliphaz, the son of Esav, had pursued him to kill him at his father's orders. Eliphaz, overtook him. But since he had grown up in Yitzhak's lap, he had held back his hand. He said to him, Jacob, what shall I do about my father's orders? Jacob replied, take whatever I have, for a poor man is counted as dead. So we see a couple different explanations. One that provides kind of 2, in my opinion, instead of just one. The first one being that prophetically seeing with insight of the future, and he goes, she will not be with me in my grave. Seems odd, plausible, I guess. Maybe I struggle with it because it doesn't seem very human. It doesn't seem very real to me, in the sense of I've never had that moment. But if it is prophetic, I've never been prophetic in that style. So maybe there is that. But I think there is a possibility that it is this. He does not have anything to give, and then there's the work that he offers instead of the gifts that Eliezer brought with him. But then there's also another form, in my opinion. I have wept personally in times of great, I had an overwhelming sense of just awe in my life. So maybe this is it too. It could be a combination of things. I mean, this is one of those things where it's like I could see myself being overwhelmed by the fact that I found somebody that I would be willing to give everything for, but I don't have anything to give. And then I'm ecstatic about the fact that, I have this opportunity. So it could be a multiple thing. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. That was her father's kinsman, so related. He was the brother-in-law's son, and told her father, since her mother was dead, she had no one to tell but him. Yet the way that they're coming to this conclusion, my understanding is that the only reason why she would run to him is because the mother has passed, and there is no household for her to go to, because typically if news is to be brought from a daughter, she would immediately go to her mother's house first. I'm sure that there's more reasoning behind that. I'm just saying that that's why the main reason it gives in the Rava. Now it came to pass when Laban heard the report of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran towards him. He embraced him and he kissed him, and he brought him into his house. He told Laban all these things. That he ran towards him. He thought that Jacob, was laden with money, for the servant of the household Eliezer had come here with 10 laden camels. Previous chapter, when Rebekah is married off to Yitzhak. So, and he embraced. When Laban did not see anything with Jacob, he said, perhaps he has brought golden coins there in his bosom. He kissed him and said, perhaps he has brought pearls, and they are in his mouth. And he told Laban that he had come only because he was compelled to do so because of his brother Esav, that they had taken his money from him. Okay. I read all that first because there's a running theme that I think is possible. Definitely possible. Eliezer came to get a wife. He brought many camels, many men, or people, I should say. It doesn't really state exactly what type, what kind of group it was. It was just a group of individuals. And then there was also the fact that he brought gold coins. He brought, or I think it was silver. I could be wrong, but there was also gold portions, a possible nose ring or earrings, some bracelets. And so it is assumed that Laban is running to meet Jacob because he is bringing good tidings, good things. And he is then first assuming that maybe he's got it. I don't see him with a knapsack, so maybe I go and I hug him and discover that he has gold coin on him. And then, maybe he doesn't have gold coin on him, so he kissed him to find out if there were jewels in his mouth. Which is a interesting phrase, but I'm two ways that I could take that is either he's hiding jewels in his mouth from if somebody is to capture him, which then curious turn of events in my head, I guess. But then there's also the possibility that maybe he had them, put on his teeth in his mouth. I'm not sure exactly the true kind of conceptualization of this, but what we're getting at is at least they're getting at is this concept that Laban is a little bit greedy, is kind of that overarching theme. However, he tells Laban, no, I'm not here with that. I'm here because Esav wants to kill me. That's the running thought there. And Laban said to him, "Indeed, you are my bone of my, in my flesh." So he stayed with him a full month. This is kind of a proclamation of, you are a family. However, because I think I could be wrong here. 14 says, "Surely thou art my bone and my flesh." He abode with him in the space. Okay, so it doesn't really say kinsman there. It actually uses this phrasing. In view of this, I have no reason to take you into the house because you have nothing. Because of kinship, however, I'll put up with you for a month's time. And so he did, but this too was not gratis, for he, Jacob, pastured his sheep. So at one point in the commentary that I read, it was kind of saying, I will take you down to the bone, in the sense of like, you will have nothing left except for, just the who you are. It seemed, I don't know. It's a very interesting concept. I'm just reading this here, probably more along the lines of, you are my kinsman, and I will keep you for a month. Maybe because that's a little bit more direct, but I don't know. Not seeing the other like heavier handed, intent bound concepts here. And Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my kinsman, should you work for me gratis? Tell me what your wages shall be. So work for free. What shall I pay you? Because you're my kinsman, he's basically like saying, because you're family, I shouldn't, you shouldn't work and not get something. Should you work for me? Likewise, any word that is in the past tense. So another, ensuring the tenses are correct. Now it says, it proclaims that Laban had two daughters, Leah and Rachel. It says this interesting phrase here, Leah's eyes were tender, but Rachel had beautiful features and a beautiful complexion. This phrase here, eyes were tender, I think are, let me make sure, 17. Leah was tender-eyed. I think in some others it says blind or didn't have very good vision. So tender here, because she was expected to fall into Esav's lot, and she wept because everyone's saying, Rebekah has two sons and Laban has two daughters, the older daughter for the older son and the younger daughter for the younger son. So now we get the reason why her eyes are tender is because she's been weeping. And the weeping was probably something along the lines of, she's not married to the one that she was supposed to be married to. But even if she was married to the one she was supposed to be, she would be in Esav's lot, in his bound to him in what he was doing, and it was not good. Is one way to put it. So because everyone was saying Rebekah has two sons and Laban has two daughters, and so on and so forth. So this is reading into the idea that she was crying because she was supposed to be married to Esav. But then it says Rachel had beautiful features and a beautiful complexion. So another way to look at this is that her eyes were tender or soft or weak. Would be another way, and that is actually some of the descriptive inside of the Rabbah features. That is the form of the countenance, an expression similar to. So here it even says the features. Rachel had beautiful features was not actually saying like form. It was saying the countenance of her. And then the complexion, that is a shine of the countenance. So here it's saying, if we read it in countenance, it would mean that Leah was sad, but Rachel was happy and fair to be around. And then Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. This 7 years they are a few days, of which his mother said, "And you shall dwell with him for a few days," you should know that this is because it is written, "They appeared to him like a few days." For Rachel, your younger daughter, why were all these signs necessary? Since Jacob knew that Laban was a deceiver, he said to him, "I will work for for Rachel, unless you say that I meant another from the street." Scripture states, "Your daughter, now lest you say, I will change her name to Leah, and I will name her Leah, Rachel." Scripture states, "Your younger daughter." Nevertheless, it did not avail him, for Laban deceived him. A lot of implied things, like he said it in this manner for Rachel, your younger daughter. He didn't have to say this portion, and so it's implying that Laban may just get somebody from the streets that's called that, or even just find somebody and name them that, and then marry them off, and then finally that they would swap names just to deceive him. Yet it of no avail if these cases are true. Very interesting, in my opinion. I don't. It's a curious concept. I'll say that much. I'll leave it at that. And Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are completed, that I may come to her. For my days are completed, that the days of which my mother told me. Moreover, my days are completed, for I am already 84 years old. When I will rise up, when will I raise up 12 tribes?" This is what he meant when he said that I may come to her. Now, isn't it true that even most degenerate person would not say this? But Jacob meant that he intended to beget generations. Okay, all of this to say, "Give me my wife" is very on the nose, right? It's not a phrase you wouldn't look at your father-in-law or mother-in-law and just point at him and go, "Give me my wife." Like it's very rude. And they're trying to say that Jacob did this because he's getting late in years, and that he knows that he's going to have 12 tribes, so that he needs to get going. And that's why he did it. Maybe. I'm just taking it at face value. The dude's 84 years old. He's found the love of his life, supposedly. And he's, maybe I'm reading the motion into this instead of like the thing. And so he gets overcome, and he makes this very rude gesture to Laban. And potentially, in my estimation, if I did that to somebody and they weren't the most honest person in the world, they may take this opportunity to go, I'll get him good. So maybe he is stating it in such a manner, but there is also a possibility that he's saying he's being very forthwith with it. So moving on, they had a feast. It came to pass he brought Leah to him during the nighttime. And it came to pass in the morning, behold, she was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? Did I not work with you for Rachel? Why have you deceived me?" Once again, the phrasing here is much more understandable. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, "What is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me?" Maybe trying to be poetic in that form, but why have you deceived me? It came to pass in the morning, behold, she was Leah. But at night she was not Leah, because Jacob had given signs to Rachel. But when she saw that they were bringing Leah, Rachel said, "Now my sister will be put to shame." So she readily transmitted those signs to her. There's many things going on here that I guess I could comment on. The most interesting when reading in this was that, and I don't even know if I could find it. I read so many that I was like, this is cool. I would like to pin it, but I just don't know if there's time. one of them was that there was a conversation between between them in the morning, and he goes, "But I called you Raquel last night, and you said yes. What is this that you have done to me?" And she returns something along the lines of, "Did you not do the same to your father?" About Esav and you. I just thought it was a really interesting interaction between the two, and I was like, wow, that's a quick retort there. To think on such thought on your feet. However, there is deception here. So who does it? I'm not sure. Sorry for the voice pop there. I need to adjust that at some point. But there is this deception. Who it's coming from, assumably Laban, because it says Laban took his daughter Leah and he brought her to him. So maybe he was a bit forceful in this endeavor. Maybe there was an agreement. There's quite a few things that could happen, but he's deceived, which is reminiscent of the very thing, and why I thought it was funny, the retort from Leah to him about Jacob and his brother with his father, because it's almost the same thing. It's not phrased the same way, but it's the same conceptually, in my opinion. So, trying to think one more thing. Well, we'll just move on. Maybe it'll come to me. Complete the wedding week of this one, and we will give you this one too for the work that you will render me for another 7 years. Complete the wedding week of this one. So in here, I guess this phrase doesn't actually mean exactly a week. So the words there are hard to understand exactly how much time this was of the wedding week, not the 7 years. And the best interpretation is 7 days. And that's what that's saying there. And we will give to you, this is a plural expression similar to above 11:3:7. Let us descend and confuse, let us fire them. This too is an expression of giving. So just a plural expression. We will give to you. And this one too, immediately after the 7 days of feasting, and you will work after her marriage. So there was some maybe this was what it was. So Laban, seeing how God is working with Jacob, this is, like I said, a common trope in the last chapter, that we want to surround ourselves with a blessed one, and he thinks to himself, maybe if we can get him for another 7 years, that we will be blessed for that 7 years, is another conceptualization of why Laban did something like this. And he came also to Raquel, and he also loved Raquel more than Leah, and he worked with him yet another 7 years. Yet another 7 years. Scripture compares the other ones to the first ones. Just as he worked for him during the first ones faithfully, so did he work for him during the other ones faithfully, although Laban had dealt with him deceptively, or deceitfully. So, yeah, he is faithful to his duty here. Here, and maybe I've conversations I've had recently is leading me to think about this. Before we have a story about a man who has much, he has so much that he has one of his servants go out for his son and get a wife for his son. And now we're seeing a man who's going to the same place that has absolutely nothing, right? One gives gifts and receives a wife, and one works. And I guess in all technicality gets two, but that is I think a symptom of something else. But what am I trying to get at here? Jacob presents himself as an upstanding individual here. He waters the flocks. He encourages those who have the flocks to tend them well, to not to laze about, but ensure the flocks are getting fed and watered. He is treating his father's brother-in-law well, per se. I mean, he's working for him faithfully. So we see a man who is making something of himself here to get the hand of a woman that he cares for. And I think in our time frame, those two stories have become, muddled in a sense that the only one that gets somebody to be married to, if that's something you care for, is to, have and to then give, when really it comes down to doing, can also beget these things, is another concept here. And maybe I'm turning a little bit, I'm trying to find some type of lesson between the weeds here, but I think it's there. I think the lesson's still here, that he is an upstanding individual, and by doing so, he acquires this. Now, he is deceived in the process, so we can't expect ourselves that, in our lives, by being a good and honest person, that other people aren't going to deceive us and treat us with dishonor. And it's not as if, he doesn't come to love Leah, right? So just something to think about with this story here about what's going on. But finally, we'll get to the very end here. So the Lord saw that Leah was hated, so he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And like I said, in the text that I was reading, it almost implied that Jacob was looking to divorce Leah, and therefore, because of this, God was like, no, I'm going to open her womb and keep you from divorcing her, which is very interesting because at the time frame, that was not, this interaction was not acceptable in the current law or the code of Hammurabi. So be it. The Lord did this, and Leah conceived and bore a son. And I tried to really kind of read and understand this, because the Lord has seen my affliction, for now my husband will love me. So she named him Reuben. Our sages explained, she said, look at the difference between my son and the son of my father-in-law, who sold the birthright to Jacob. This one, Reuben, did not sell it to Joseph, and he did not contend against him, but even sought to take him out of the pit. There's a lot of back and forth about children, and there was this concept of having a fair name and doing evil deeds, having an evil name and doing fair deeds, having an evil name and doing evil things, and fair name doing fair things. It was very, very deep, but it was all coming to these concepts of, she named him because of these things. And as an example, the first one that comes to mind is Ishmael. His name means hearing God, or God hears. It's something along those lines, in which yet Ishmael does not listen to God. That is the concept, where it's like the name is fair but does terrible deeds, where Jacob has kind of a negative name, and yet he's doing these good things. What I'm maybe trying to get to is that, like, if you think that life has set you up to be something because your name is such, meaning like, well, I was just made this way, that does not beget the deeds that you do, right? And we see that in the stories, and almost all of these stories, is that like the individual maybe perceived to be something and yet turns around and does something else. And one of the other ones was Esav. They considered the name good, which was kind of a curious thought in my head. I was like, I'm not sure exactly how I would see that as good, but they considered it fair, like a fair good. And yet he did terrible things, kind of Ishmael. So there's this, everyone has an opportunity to choose for themselves what they do. So moving forward with that, she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, oh, and we passed Shimon, but we're getting to Levi. Now this time my husband will be attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he named, so now he names the child. These ones she named. So she named Reuben, she named Shimon, he named Levi. Since the matriarchs were prophetesses, they knew that 12 tribes would emanate from Jacob, and that he would marry 4 wives. She said, from now on, he would find no fault with me, for I have contributed my share in producing sons. There's this prophetess concept that's going on within the matriarchs, meaning Rachel, Leah, and the 2 handmaids. I'm forgetting their names. Instead of saying a bunch of times in your ear, I'm just going to move forward. You know who I'm talking about. I'll come to their name maybe in a minute. But therefore, so whoever's referred to with the expression a large population, except Levi, because the ark destroyed many of them. I couldn't really pull out a whole lot out of that comment. Maybe there's something that I'm not gathering, but he named him Levi. I wonder why it is written concerning this one, and he named, while concerning all the others it is written she named. There is an Agadic Midrash and Deuteronomy Rabbah, which relates how the Holy One, blessed be he, sent Gabriel. He brought him, Levi, before him, and he gave him this name, and he gave him the 24 priestly gifts, because he accompanied him with gifts. He named him Levi. This is pretty extreme, but what I was getting at with the 4 wives piece was there is a potential that, in my mind, a pretty reasonable potential, I think, that Jacob was considering not being with Leah. It wasn't an honorable marriage in his mind. But because of this, and he hated, she was hated in the household. So it's not a far leap in my mind, and therefore the way that God keeps this together is by allowing her to have 4 sons. And on the 3rd one, now this time my husband will be attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he named him. I think maybe this is a stretch, I don't know, but I could reasonably in my mind say that he went, okay, I won't, and therefore I will name him. I will show loving kindness and give this son a name. Whereas these 2 other ones may have been like, I don't know, and which maybe if we read really far into it was like, maybe the first one was like, nope, still don't care. Second one, well, maybe. Third one, okay, I get it, God. Only because I've seen that in my life multiple times. Maybe for yourself, I don't know, but I just can reasonably see that in my mind. May just be reading too far into it, but that's why I think he names Levi. And then finally, she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, this time I will thank the Lord. There is this writing, this time I will thank, since I have taken more than my share, consequently I must offer up thanks. There's a story that's written in there about a guy that comes to 2 people, and one gives a portion of the portion that was meant for him, the tithe. So like he's a poor man, but he doesn't thank the man. But he goes to another guy like the following day, and that man gives him food that was not a part of the tithe. and he thanks that individual. Well, the man who gave him the portion that was greater, which was the tithe, so one was rich, one was, a little lower in class, and the one that was rich gave him a good portion, but it was within inside of the tithe that was meant for him. And then the other one that gave from his own plate to the man, and he thanks that one. And the guy goes, "Why did you thank him?" And he says, "Because he gave me of his portion." So the story's kind of meant to give a concept of like, this one, I have taken from the Lord his portion. So Yehuda is the Lord's. And I thank him for what he has done. Which leads us into the following part, which is a long chain of what I consider bickering and trying one-upmanship between two individuals with their husband, which is so confusing to me. But, be that as it may, speaking strictly on this chapter here, I hope that some of this is kind of given a little bit more light to the cultural side of these things. For instance, reading this, Leah's eyes were tender, but Rachel had beautiful features and beautiful complexion. That really opened it up to me as the personhood of the individual. Instead of their physical appearance, it was more along the lines of their countenance, their expression, which leads me to wonder, finding somebody who is happy in life already is desirable, right? However, there's another underlying current here that even when we are deceived by others or wronged by others would be probably a better way to look at it, God still blesses us. And he not only blesses, he doesn't just bless Leah, he blesses Jacob through the very deception that they possibly may have been a part of. So it is good for us to remember that maybe in the moment we need to remember that, this deception may hurt and may be infuriating, but it is better for us to pick ourselves back up and work the 7 years. And then we will be blessed 7, well, technically it's 4 children for just Leah at this point right now, and that's twice as many as his father. If we want to just look at the numbers, but neither here nor there. Like I said, I hope this gave a little bit more perspective on some of the stuff. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a good one.